When you live in a republic like Ireland, the idea is supposed to be that the will of the people is sovereign, or at least that's how things are supposed to work in theory. On paper, the public casts their vote during an election or a referendum, and in doing so, the people decide the country's future, not the politicians. The essence of democracy is at root self-determination. That's how it's supposed to work. And that's what we all signed up for as a society and as a state. But sometimes the question needs to be asked, is that how things work in reality? It figures that in order to make a meaningful decision, you have to know what you're deciding to begin with. For example, if you and I sign a contract based on certain conditions, and then afterwards I change key paragraphs by adding in things and removing certain agreements, would it be reasonable for me to say that you agreed to my proposal, or have I simply bamboozled you? Well, I think we all know the answer to that. We can't say we're making a real informed choice when the person on the other side of the table is pulling dirty tricks and moving the goalposts constantly. So why do I bring this up, and what does it have to do with Irish democracy exactly? Well, there were a lot of promises made during Ireland's last major referendum, the 8th Amendment vote in 2018. Now, whatever you think about abortion personally, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, is frankly irrelevant, because we should view this as less about abortion and more about our elected representatives keeping their word on issues of importance. It's about the honesty and integrity of our political system. For an idea of what I'm talking about, let's listen to what then Taoiseach Leo Varadkar told voters just a month before the 8th referendum, when he said that there would be a reflection period of 72 hours before a woman received a termination. This was so that she could fully consider all of her options and not rush into any hasty decisions regarding what we can all agree is a very important matter. As the Independent reported at the time, speaking at the launch of Fine Gael's Vote Yes campaign, the Taoiseach said, "A yes vote does not mean that there will be no restrictions. There will be a waiting period of 72 hours to allow for reflection and counselling to allow alternatives to be offered and considered." So voters were not only told this repeatedly by the Taoiseach, but also then Taoiseach Simon Coveney, who reinforced the message as well.
An informed consent protocol, which is what I'm asking for, is so important. That's why a pause period of up to 72 hours is also very important.
So during the entire campaign, the government was telling undecided members of the public not to worry. Relax, they said. There'll be a 3-day reflection period with counselling. It won't be some fast-tracked free-for-all. There's no need to be concerned. And no doubt many people voted for abortion on the basis of that promise. And yet just 4 short years later, we now have taxpayer-funded lobbying groups and NGOs like the Abortion Rights Campaign and the National Women's Council putting pressure on the government to remove the 3-day wait that was promised. At this point, it's probably worth pointing out that HSE statistics released to Independent TD Carol Nolan indicate that as many as 1,600 women per year changed their mind during the 3-day wait period in 2021. These are women who initially sought a consultation about having an abortion, and then after the 3-day wait, they never came back for said abortion. The 2021 data shows that the state made over 8,200 payments for initial consultations regarding abortions with GPs and clinics, but in that period, the number of completed abortions was recorded at 6,600, so a difference of around 1,600. For some women, this certainly means that if the 3-day wait wasn't in place, they may have been rushed into a decision that they wouldn't have made otherwise. So that time to think is evidently very important when a life is literally on the line. The numbers suggest that there are, on average, around 1,000 babies every year in Ireland who would not be alive if their mothers had been dragged through some rushed process and hadn't been given the opportunity to weigh up her options properly. And that is why 106 Irish medical professionals have signed a letter saying that they, quote, strongly urge the Minister for Health to retain the 3-day period of reflection before a woman undergoes an abortion. One of the doctors who signed the letter, Dr. Trevor Hayes, who is a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist, explained his rationale for doing so.
Doctors, nurses and midwives have sent an open letter to Mr. Stephen Donnelly regarding the retention of the 3-day wait regarding abortion. This is an extremely important period as is a time of reflection, and it safeguards the correct decision for the patient. As doctors, nurses and midwives who are promoting life, we feel it's very important that the patient has adequate time to make the correct decision. If one gets any medical or surgical procedure, there's an inbuilt cooling off period where 3 questions have to be answered by the patient. 1, do I need this operation? 2, what are the benefits? And 3, what are the risks and complications? You need time, you need counselling, you need to reflect to make the appropriate decision.
So that doctor was just one of 106 Irish medical professionals who signed an open letter to this effect, and yet taxpayer-funded pressure groups are attempting to push the government to renege on its promise to the Irish people. Whether you're personally pro-life or pro-choice, you should oppose this. If the government does indeed go back on its promise, this will be a slap in the face to democracy itself and every voter in this country. Everyone, regardless of their views, should resent being lied to, particularly by those in positions of power. It's not acceptable for the government to have people vote a certain way by making a promise and then as soon as the goal is achieved, breaking that promise casually. This isn't about abortion or social issues or anything like that. It's about democracy and whether or not we live in a truly free society or a banana republic, where leaders just tell the people whatever they want and then do what they like on the side. The government haven't gone back on their promise yet, and maybe they ultimately won't. But if you ask me, it's the job of the entire voting public to remind them of what they said and keep them honest in the face of pressure groups with an agenda. Please like and share this video, and if you enjoyed it, please consider signing up for a monthly donation via the link on screen to help us produce more content like this. Alternative media like Gript needs all the assistance it can get, and every donation goes a long way. As always, thanks for watching.